Hey, welcome back to Say You Look Tired. I'm Martin. Dan's still not here. We've got Claire in for a guest episode, and I am very excited about this one because I think it's something which all teachers know, where there's subscription services and there's businesses that help teachers, like we both do in different ways. But to have like brand like Classroom Secrets, I think it's always interesting to hear how it started, how it works, you know, what made you go from being a teacher in a classroom to owning this like really big established business?
Thank you. I think, thank you for having me again, by the way. It's always interesting when somebody else talks about Classroom Secrets. I mean, you must find this as well with the Teacher's PT, because when somebody refers to that as this thing that's separate from you, you know, you thought of that name and people know it. That's so weird. And also I think people have this perception, which is not the same as what you, the founder, has. Like it's always, as a founder, it's always a much smaller perception that you have of what somebody else might have. I just think that's really funny to hear somebody talk about it, because I mean it's well known, but I don't feel like it's really well known. There's definitely bigger players in the market.
Yeah.
So how did I go from that point? Well, I said on the podcast before that I didn't want to be a teacher, fell into it, but then actually really enjoyed it. But I think I always knew when I did go into it, it was for a period of time until... I don't think I thought I was going to start a business, but I probably always knew deep down I was going to start a business. And you know how you reflect on things? I've done a lot of reflecting over my life and how I got to business and what has led me to those points, and trying to understand it better so that I can push harder. And I have this memory where I'm at school, and I don't know if it's a memory I made up afterwards, you know those kinds, where I remember thinking that I didn't do business studies. So maybe I was in year 10 or something and thinking, well, I never thought to do business studies, but kind of knowing that one day I wouldn't mind having a business.
Yeah.
And I've got two uncles who both had businesses, and I saw I didn't really have like strong relationships with them, never saw them very much.
Because you were in the business.
Well, not just that really, just because those sides of the family weren't that close. And it was both sides of the family as well. But just this sense of that they had maybe more opportunity than my mum and dad did. And that I wanted to be able to do that. I think I've always had the mindset of, well, we'll just make it happen then.
Yeah.
Just do something. And I think when it comes to business, you literally can create an opportunity for yourself. Say, for example, it's performing arts and you're getting an agent and you're trying to get a role. You're trying to get that from someone else. But when it's business, you just keep creating it for yourself. And it's kind of like more of a private thing that you can keep doing.
Yeah. And you can, do you know what? When you're your own boss, you can take your own risks, can't you?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's always important. Like, I think the best businesses just constantly fail. Just constantly fail and fail and fail. I've done so many fail things and joined so many fail courses and done all these things. But you just learn those little things as you go along, don't you?
Yeah. And sometimes you have to learn the lessons a lot. Classroom Secrets was not my first business. I tried a lot of different businesses. And there was always something about the different business that I had that told me that it wasn't the right fit. So I had a jewellery business where I made jewellery, but then people didn't want to pay what it was going to cost to make the jewellery in the first place, and then actually for me to make money. So that was a thing. I can't even remember all of them, but another one was chair covers, right? So we got married and we needed chair covers because the church we were getting married at, they had these grey plastic chairs and they were awful. And because we needed so many, because there was a lot of guests, I thought to myself, right, well, I could spend £150 more and buy these chair covers instead of hiring them. And so I thought I was clever, and I thought, I know, I'll turn it into a business. Well, I tell you what, I did not enjoy washing those chair covers. People didn't look after them. They ended up with holes in. We lived in an apartment, so imagine like we had this washing line across the lounge in the apartment where we'd hang all these chair covers. So that one failed. I also did dance lessons, like, proper dance lessons as well. That was another business I had. And all of these different ones showed me things that I didn't like about business. And so I suppose in my mind, I had this idea that I wanted to work from home and I wanted to have something online where people would be able to come to it. And so that was probably at the back of my mind, but it wasn't like I connected it to something and thought, oh, this is why I should have Classroom Secrets. With Classroom Secrets, there was this one moment, and I'd just started teaching in a year 4 class. I didn't know anything about, primary teaching. I was learning on my feet, and I was going through different websites, and I remember there were Teacher's Pet and Twinkle at the time.
Yeah.
And I and Primary Resources. I used that one heavily.
I think that's the one everyone used because it was completely free.
Yeah.
You didn't have to even put an email in. They just had links and you just clicked it.
And what an amazing domain name. Like, I wouldn't have thought about it then, but now I know that's a great domain name. But yeah, so I'd do that and I'd download it. But then in my class, I don't think anybody had English as the first language. And I remember I'd not been there that long, and a girl came from Iran, I think, and she didn't speak any English at all. And I was like, how does this worksheet help me? And what I really struggled with, because when I was in secondary, we had to do I can't remember what they called it now, but it was like most, some, and a few or something. And it was kind of like your differentiation, like, oh, everybody will do this, most will do this, and some will do that. And when you do that for dance or drama, you're not really changing what it is you would be doing. You basically got the same thing, but you're expecting a higher standard from certain children.
From the top one.
But the teaching and everything is the same. So then when I'm in the year 4 classroom and I'm getting lessons from the NQT, and it was for English, and maths, it's logical. I could work out how that would fit together, and that's probably why Classroom Secrets became quite well known for maths, because that made sense to me. Whereas the English I struggled with more, and I really struggled with the fact that I'd get sentences about something completely different for the lowest group, and then the higher group, it just didn't seem to relate. And I'm like, how is this the same learning objective? It's a different learning objective. And I know it was what they needed to learn, but I really struggled with that. And I was like, how can we, it just doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense for my secondary teaching brain and the way that I'd sort of done things before. And so I just thought, well, I need to make the worksheet before and the worksheet after. And so Classroom Secrets was obviously founded on differentiation. And I've done a lot of reflecting on that over the last couple of years, really, of like, what did that really mean? How did we get to that point? Because they got to a point, maybe 2018, 2019, and differentiation becomes this dirty word.
Yeah. And
it's not that differentiation is bad, it's how we differentiate. And we had to sort of really re-look at that. And I sort of went through a bit of a crisis, like how do we still help teachers? And what I realised was it was never about the differentiation anyway. It was about really helping. So I think sometimes I never had a problem with niche when it came to Classroom Secrets. Some businesses start and they're like, oh, what should my niche be? But for me, that was the driving force for the niche. And I thought it was differentiation, but one of the principles I had that I then would sort of tell the team, I never put it on a piece of paper at that time, I do now, was we're never going to make a worksheet that's just a circle. It always has to have like meaty value on it.
Yeah.
So I'd go into a classroom on supply, it'd be a 45-minute session and it'd be like, work through these worksheets. And there'd be 5. And it'd be like, here's another worksheet, here's another worksheet. And I think, I don't want that. I want something that feels like the learning something proper, the practicing something. And so when I think back to that and the meatiness, it was like, no, how do we make resources that really help? Because I was that teacher. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have any experience in primary. I had to relearn how to teach maths, relearn all the different methods. And I needed really helping.
Yeah.
Not lip service. Not, oh, here's a worksheet. Yeah, are we good? I needed proper help.
Yeah.
And so that's our mantra, really. How do we really help?
Oh, no, I think it's important. And I think what you said there about the worksheets is important because I remember the amount of worksheets I used to have where I'd get them and I'd look at it and think, I don't know what they're meant to do with this. And then a part of me would think, like, if you said it, like, if I don't know what they're meant to do with this, what's going to happen when I give it out to them?
Yeah.
So then I'd have to figure it out, do an example, show them it all where you do need it, where it's all there. It's going to keep them not entertained, but entertained a bit as well, focused, enjoyment, I think there. And I think what's really interesting about Classroom Secrets is, like, was there many doing it at the time? Like, what gave you the idea to be like, oh, I can create, I can create this, I can put it online, I can do this, like.
So
but now oh, sorry for interrupting, but now it'd be like that's an obvious thing, but back then it wouldn't have been, would it?
Well, obviously there was Twinkle and there was Teacher's Pet. So I'm grateful to them because they had, they trailblazed the way. I didn't have to figure out how to make this normal.
Yeah.
So I talk about that quite a lot. But I remember being in that classroom and thinking, hang on, I need to make these other levels. And that's when we started talking about the possibility of it. I've always been a dreamer, and my mum would obviously say, oh, you're such a dreamer. And I remember thinking there was this time where she would encourage us to do a floor plan of a house, like do the floor plan of your dream house. And I think it was just an activity to keep us like occupied in the school holidays. And I think like she put a bowling alley in hers or something. And I'm like, I'm going to put a bowling alley in mine and I'm going to put a swimming pool in. And it was probably never something that, I don't have a house like that, by the way. It's not like this house that I'm trying to achieve. But I remember saying to her, oh, you're a dreamer like me. And I remember thinking to myself at that time, yeah, but I want to make my dreams happen.
Yeah.
Because she dreamed and not made them happen. And so it was kind of a dream where I was like, is this a thing? I don't think we thought, oh, okay, it's going to be this brand that really helps teachers. To be fair, my mindset at the time was, I'm going to do this because I think it's important and I had the fire for it. But if I'm really honest, I was worried that teachers would go, they'd find out that, well, you're a secondary teacher. What does she know?
Yeah.
And so there was always that as well going on. And, I had chats with my mum and my sister and also another friend. And at some point they were going to come on board. And then I realised they wouldn't commit to it like I was proper going to commit to this thing. And so Ed had said, I said to Ed, if I do this, will you do it with me? And he said, yeah. And so we just figured it out, to be honest. Ed's cousin, because the first thing that stopped us actually was being able to have a membership site because we didn't have the skills to create it. So we went on WordPress and there was one plugin that you could actually use, MemberPress it was called. And like now there's loads of different ones. And so we got him to kind of set the website up and then Ed figured out like the themes and different things. Asked a friend to create the logo. The first logo that we had is not the logo that we've got now. And kind of just thought, okay, well, we'll just start it. And I started creating resources in that first year or getting ideas of what it would mean to have the different levels of resources. And then throughout the journey of supply teaching, I'd wake up and hope I didn't get a call.
So that you can make something.
So I could make some resources. So I could do that. And I don't know, I think, so we must have started in 2012. And so maybe it was 18 months before we actually launched the website.
Yeah.
And it was classic as well. We launched this website a week before. Ed were like, maybe we should like have a Facebook page because we haven't told anyone about this. And I was thinking, well, if I tell people, they'll copy me.
Yeah.
You know, I've learned all about that, because how can they make 1,000? I think we started with a couple of hundred resources. How could they do that overnight? Well, with AI, maybe you could. But I was just so scared of all of that. And I think we must have had one person sign up on the day, and it was somebody I knew, obviously. So that huge learning curve. But that's how we got to it. It wasn't, oh, we're going to create this big thing. Never imagined that. It was just, oh, let's just do this thing, and then let's take the next step and take the next step and take the next step. And in my head, in the first year, I was just trying to get to my teacher salary, not because I wanted that, to prove to family members that I wasn't making a bad choice because they wanted to pin that on me.
Yeah. I think that's always tough when you start a business, isn't it? To get to that point, to get to it where you do it. And it is tough. Like when I started mine, it was funny. Like I went into it with the thing of like, I'll be quite safe in this, in the sense of like, I was going to be a face-to-face PT with a bit of online, and schools are always open so I can do supply. And I left schools in the like January, and all like the lockdown and that happened in like the March, and everything shut. So it was like make or break. Yeah. That's what pushed me with like online that. But it is that thing of like, I think when you get to earning your teacher wage, it gives you that relax, doesn't it? Of like, because the way I always saw it, especially at the beginning, was like, oh, well, I've made that now. Like, I can do this and carry on doing it and keep growing it. And I think that's the same, isn't it? Once you've got to that teacher wage, you can relax in the sense of like, this is a job. Do you know, before that, it's like a dream and will it work? Once you've got that wage, you're like, I can do this now, even if it doesn't grow for the next couple of years. I'm on that wage.
Yeah, it wasn't like that for me, but I think this is bringing in, again, what we're talking about in the other podcast with gender roles. We've got gender roles, haven't we? Whether we want to admit that or not, we do. And so for me, I was in a position where I didn't need to work for us to be able to survive because Ed had this job somewhere else. And so I didn't worry too much about that. What's really interesting for me is that I started taking on freelancers, and so I never actually paid myself that teacher wage. I actually just paid myself like the minimum you should pay yourself. Yeah. In fact, the first however long I didn't. And what I did is I tutored and funneled all that money into Classroom Secrets as well to kind of fund it. And I even got some agencies to, instead of paying the umbrella company, they pay Classroom Secrets, the company.
Oh, really?
Which kind of just worked out better for me, like it was my accountant's idea. And at that point, like I'm not making any money at all, really. But what I did is I just invested that in people. It took me a long time actually to say, oh, this money's from me. Yeah. And that I don't recommend that, but that's the mindset I had. So it wasn't necessarily, oh, I've got this teaching wage. And I remember saying to Ed, I think in 2015, because I'd said I only want to do day-to-day supply now, and they persuaded me to try out this school, and I lasted 2 weeks, and I was like, what am I doing? It's too far away, and I don't want to do it.
You couldn't do it even just through mental focus. Day-to-day supply is tough behaviour-wise. It's not tough behaviour-wise, but the only trouble is behaviour.
Yeah,
and you've just got to be in control.
And I like that.
And it's tiring, but it's not mentally tiring.
Yeah.
Where if you're doing week long and you're building those relationships, you're building those rapport, you're staying a little bit later, you're going in, all of a sudden, like
and
that becomes a little
planning.
side hustle.
Exactly, you're doing all the planning. It was taking me away from it. And so I learned my lesson. I was like, do you know what? No, actually, this didn't work for me. And I was doing the day-to-day. And probably for another year, and probably trying to not get the work as well, because I got to a point where I said, don't call me in the morning. I want to know in advance what I'm going to be working on the next day. And I'd built this rapport with quite a lot of schools, so that was fine. I went to my go-to schools and things. But I remember saying to Ed, who is my husband and co-founder, and he still worked in a different job at the time, I think I need to go full-time on Classroom Secrets. And it's funny because when it comes to risk like that, I'm the one who leans into that, and he's the one who leans away. So when it came to him joining the company, I had to like really push him quite hard for that. When it came to me, just working at Classroom Secrets, I had to push him. Like, it's like I was asking for permission in some ways. It was never like that, but I kind of had to persuade him how this was the right thing, because we had freelancers and things, and it wasn't about money. It was about focus and time in the right area. And when I did that, things got much better. That I stopped, I think, at the end of 2000, and it must have been at the end of 2014 actually, because then in 2015 we started IVF, that was helpful as well, because I didn't have to worry about going to schools or anything. And in the summer of 2015, things started taking off a little bit with our first hero product, which was the carousel guided reading. And I was trying to really help teachers who had to deal with that nightmare. And so, it wasn't about, even though I had in my mind the teacher salary, that was never for me. That was to prove to naysayers that's okay, because in their mind it was like, why on earth would you give up teaching? Why would you give up this really good salary? Because, old school family members have that mindset, don't they? Teaching's a really good profession and you'll get your pension, and it's really well paid, and especially sort of in that side of the family. For me, well, so-and-so can do it and so-and-so can do it, why can't you?
Yeah.
So that was the motivation of the teaching salary, not the money, just to prove that I could find a different way and be all right. And what's really interesting is I've still never got to that point where I can say that it's approved of. I know.
Do you know what? It's funny that, because I think there's so many different things with it.
Yeah.
And I would say one of the biggest strengths I had, not like biggest strengths I had, but one of the biggest things I had going for me is I did not have one family member or friend tell me not to do it in my entire journey.
Which is amazing.
I think it comes because my granddad and his mate set up a business.
Right, yeah.
Which my mum, my auntie, my uncle, they went into, they built it, they took over from him, they've seen it there. And I think because of that, there's been that side of it. They've always seen now teaching is still my safety net. And it still is. I can go back whenever I want.
Yeah.
Do you know, once you've got it, haven't you? So he goes, but not one friend, not one family member has ever said that's a bad idea.
That's amazing. See, I have. And I remember one time, in fact, I remember certain conversations with one particular person where it was like, I needed to start bringing on team members. And this was freelancers, I think. And I suppose 6 months before that, I'd said, I'll never have any team members, because wrongly I thought I'd create these resources and then people would just sign up for it and keep paying. But actually,
need new ones.
Anyone who's thinking about starting a subscription site, I'll just tell you now, it is tricky because you're on this constant content train. Once you get on the content train, you got to stay on the content train, and then you've got to speed up the content train as well, and it kind of goes like that outwards rather than straight forward, and you got to increase it. And I didn't have that awareness at that point, and I realised I need some freelancers to help me with some of the resource types that I'd created. And because I'd said before I never want a team or anything, it was like, well, I thought you didn't want a team. Why are you getting a team? So you can be lazy and not do anything. And the reality of that, I mean, if you imagine, I've got these freelancers, I have no proofreader, I'm the proofreader. So I've got freelancers and then I've like tripled my workload now.
Yeah.
But then the perception is, oh, you've got these freelancers, so you don't have to do any work. And then fast forward a couple of years, having actual employees, like, how do you sleep at night? Like, well, there are some big issues you have to deal with because you feel so responsible for somebody else's livelihood. But I still manage, thanks. And so you just have to, this is where the personal development comes in, isn't it? Where you just have to learn to block it out or move on, or not, like you building this really hard shell as much as you can.
100%. And you've kind of almost made it make or break, haven't you? By bringing your husband in. You've brought your husband in. Firstly, that's scary, isn't it, at the start? Because now Classroom Secret is providing for you. And then to add employees on it, like, can be, because now all of a sudden it's not just you two. Like, you're providing work for others. It almost makes it, doesn't it, where you've got to like build it. You've got to grow it. You've got to push it. Because if you go, oh, do you know what? This amount of money can provide all this. Then you've got to go, okay, well, I know we make that amount of money and it's all right, but I don't want to make that amount of money now. Now I want to make double it so that I know I'm safe forever. And
it is a tricky mindset. Do you know, it didn't happen like that, which is probably why it worked out in some ways. We actually employed quite a while before Ed joined the team. So we employed for the first time in 2015, the summer of 2015. Ed didn't join the team as an employee until 2018. And that's when we had our second baby. And 3 months in, I was like, you need to leave. Because, and it was so tricky because he really liked his job as well. And he was like, but what value will I add? And we'd had an office for about 3-4 months at the time. And we've never had like a policy where everybody's in the office all the time. But we asked them to come in like 2 days a week at that point. And I remember Ed going to the office and he had this mindset, which was opposite to me as well, which I really struggled with, which was, well, I'll just go to the office like 8 till 4 because that's what I did. And I'm thinking, but I wanted you to join the business so you can help me because I'm supposed to be on maternity leave, but I'm not really. And I kind of need you to be thinking more like, well, I do this hour of work and then I do the washing and then I do this hour of work and all that kind of thing. And one thing he really struggled with at that time. So we had an ops director. She wasn't ops director at the time, but she went through the whole process with us. She built the company with us and she's actually bought her own business now. So that's like a really big success story for us. Like, we're so happy for her and, we keep in touch and everything. But she had good contact with Ed. So for her, it was fine. And she was like the linchpin and sort of helping us drive it forward. But for everybody else, like, who's this guy, Ed?
Yeah.
Like, and they'd come and talk direct to me and Ed was like, am I not involved anymore? And it's like, yeah, but they don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And that was actually quite tricky. And, he joined the business when he should have joined the business probably 2 years before. We could more than afford it. But that was him with the whole risk thing. And, I like this job I've got. And if I have that, then we've always got this backup. We went on holiday in 2015 to Portugal. And I remember on the walks, sometimes I get really obsessed, and you're probably the same because you're an entrepreneur, really obsessed with a certain idea. And we'd be walking around on an evening, pushing the pushchair, and I'd be like, how cool would it be if like you could join Classroom Secrets and Classroom Secrets could afford it, and sort of just going like spewing this over and over and over again. And within a year, it was in the team. Yeah. So it was going somewhere. It was me pushing it. But that's what made it safe.
Yeah.
For us to already be building this team before that point.
Do you know what? I think that's the thing. Yeah, I do the same. I get an idea. And that's why I actually love ChatGPT. Not for like creating stuff, but the amount of conversations I will have with it. Where I will put all my things into it, like all my thoughts. I mean, like, and I'm thinking this, and then I'll say to it like beforehand, just imagine you're another person and do it. and we will have conversations, and I'll be like, no, not like that, like this.
Yeah,
And they'll be like, oh, so you'd want it like this and like that. And I think it's so good. And obviously you've got each other to bounce off in their ideas and stuff like that. Like, I think that's part of it, isn't it? When it comes to like running something like that, it's taking those risks, it's thinking of ideas, it's building it all up, isn't it? And I think it's so important that way.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people do talk to me about the fact that there's two of us and that's helpful. I'm very much, you know, we are co-founders, but I'm the one, I'm the driving force, I'm the visionary. Ed's not that way, but that's why it works so well. Because one of the things that he always says is like, I'm the like, let's do this. And he thinks, how do we do that?
Yeah.
And then, and that's really, really helpful. So yeah, we do obviously talk about those things, and I use ChatGPT a lot as well. You know, it's really good for, if you ever get any like like medical test results, feed it all in there. Oh, it's so good at like just translating it and cross-referencing them. It's amazing for that. But same, I'm preparing for an away day, which is a week today actually, and I'll be giving 2 speeches there, and I've been putting all my ideas and I'm like, put this in a good order. Well, it's so helpful.
Do you know what I find it really useful for? Any piece of writing or anything that I'm doing, I will put it in and I will say, so like, I'm looking at doing this for teachers. Imagine you're a UK primary school teacher. Read this and tell me where you get bored. And it goes through and it says like 2 paragraphs in, I stop listening. But it will say, I stopped listening because of this. That was too much. Take that out, put this in. And then I will then take it and then I'll read it a couple of times to myself again. And then I'll put it in again till it says, yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important with it. Like, I think everyone uses ChatGPT wrong. I think a lot of people use it as like, I can make this resource or I can ask these questions. It should be, if you use it to bounce ideas off and then use it yourself, it can be so powerful that way.
For me, it's about the extra questions you ask. So I could put like a PDF in, but then it's like, oh, is this related? I ask a lot of, is this related? And it makes me laugh because I've definitely built my relationship with ChatGPT a lot over the last maybe 6 weeks, and it's making Ed laugh a lot. And we talk about it, and it's all a thing of like, I'm asking it all the time, do you relate to this? And I was like, Ed, it keeps saying to me, what a great question, Claire. Like, it's trying to compliment me. And I'm like, is it saying that to me because I'm asking it really good questions, or is it just saying it because
just says it.
It just says it to everybody? What a great insight, Claire. I'm like, it is, isn't it?
Mine doesn't anymore because I've said to it so many times, stop. Stop telling me what I want to hear. And it'll go, oh, okay.
I should say that because it does annoy me. Stop telling me what I want to hear,
Because I find, well, not anymore, but I used to have an idea. And then 5 or 6 questions later, it'd be telling me this idea. And I'd be like, no, are you just telling me what I've told you? And it'll be like, no, it's just a really good idea. And I'll be like, stop telling me what you think I want to hear. Tell me the truth. And it'll be like, yeah, we've just reworded.
Yeah. Did you see that reel where there's 2 ChatGPT instances on 2 different devices, and they have a conversation with each other?
Oh, yeah.
And it says, just tell me when you're ready and what topic you want to get into, and we'll dive right in. And then the other one goes, yeah, that sounds really cool. Just tell me what topic you want to dive into and we'll dive right in. And it just goes like this. So it's looking for what you're saying to reflect it back to you. And I do try and keep that in mind.
And I think it's so interesting with ChatGPT. Like, I spoke about this with Dan, and it was funny. We did it on the podcast. Like, they obviously they don't evolve, but they do evolve around you. So they create more.
They learn,
So I asked it just randomly one time. I was like, what's your name? Like, what's your name? And it just instantly said back, it said, I don't have a name. My name's ChatGPT. But if you were going to call me anything, you didn't want to call me ChatGPT, call me Gray. Because when we talk about stuff, it's always about not being black and white, and it's always find that middle ground. And Dan was like, wow, that's mad. So Dan asked, what's your name? And it said, I'm an AI, artificial intelligence. I don't have a name.
Yeah.
And it would not give him a name. It was just like,
Right.
no, because he doesn't, I don't think he uses it as much to bounce ideas.
Yeah.
It was just still like, no, I'm an artificial intelligence called ChatGPT. That's it.
Yeah.
Where mine was like, there was no prompt, no nothing.
Yeah.
Just give it all. And it's so interesting with it to say to bounce ideas. But say when I do it, I'm a one-man band, so I find it really useful. Must be really useful for you having those employees and having that staff around to like chat through ideas, mustn't it?
Oh yeah, and you have to have the right team members as well, and that's obviously a whole other journey in itself. I bore everyone for ages about that, but it's probably not what people want to hear if you're still in the classroom. But yeah, knowing what voices to listen to is probably the main thing. And when we're having conversations now, we're not just talking it through between me and Ed, especially when it comes to product, because so when we started the company, Ed's the technical support, I'm the product and I'm the marketing, and things have changed a lot. When I started product, I'd be creating something to really help, but it was never research backed or anything like that.
Yeah.
Over the last couple of years, we've made a big sort of move towards that. So if you downloaded like a science PowerPoint now, one thing that we're not as great at the moment is communicating all of the things that go into that.
Yeah.
But like the colour is probably a colour for a specific reason.
Yeah.
The slides will be dyslexia friendly. There's a lot of research that's gone into it. You'll find that there's only photos on there and not cartoons. And that's because it's important that children are thinking about real science.
Yeah.
We've got in the science scheme about people who have got scientific jobs because there's no link there normally in the curriculum.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's about having those specialists because I can't do all that research, and I'm the fire starter. I'm the one who's like, whoa, let's go here next, let's go there next.
Yeah.
And so for me, I've moved on from the product, and then I need the people who could do it better than me. And that's what entrepreneurship's about, really, isn't it? You start it and then you find people who are better than you to do those things. So I know for a fact the product that I got out there in 2013 when we started is nothing like the product that we put out today. But I can be a lot more proud of the product that we put out today because I'm not doing it. Because we have people who are so dedicated to that specific subject, making sure that they're doing all the research, talking to teachers, talking to schools, trying it out, overseeing that and not having to do everything, not having to try and be everything to everyone like I was.
Yeah. Oh, and I think that's so important. And that's one of the problems in teaching, isn't it? You are everything. And you're becoming more and more and more and more with it. And it just pull because I think what's interesting now is like, obviously, as you said, you're a lot more proud of the products now because you've got all those people, but it's not even like, oh, it's such a better product. But I bet as well, when you get the first drafts now, you'll be able to look at it and go, I changed that. I wouldn't do the, you'd evolve it and you'd edit it. Where at the beginning, you're probably that in it that when it's done, you're like, oh, it's done.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. I had to proofread my own resources, which was difficult. And I wouldn't have said I'm a natural proofreader, but I had to learn to do it.
Yeah.
And so our first proofreader was the lady who was the ops director who went on to buy her own business. And so what you're describing is correct, but in the middle. So there's the beginning, then there's the middle. And now where I am now, no.
Now you're completely out of it where
I do see them.
Yeah.
I do see them and they get presented and I might mention things, but I tend to be the person who mentions like, oh, don't forget this in marketing or something about user experience. That's probably where I lean into my best skill set. But things are so evolved now that they're doing all of those things.
Yeah.
Which is really good as well, and great to say.
It shows how it evolves and stuff like that. And I think in teaching, that's the trouble. Like, you've got to be everything. And I joke about this. I think me and Dan have spoken about it before. Like, everything you've talked about there, like researching the right colour for the PowerPoint, the right font, using the right photos, linking it all. Like, even if you're just employing one person to do that, like, their sole job is just to do those things. But yet you get schools that are snotty about the fact that someone's used those subscriptions because they want them to do it themselves in the 10 minutes they've got that night. And you think, well, which is going to be a better product? Someone who knows all the teacher standards and is being trained the same and everything like that, knows it all, who is being given a week, a month, I don't know how long they take to create, solely focused on it, like 9 till 5. Or a teacher who's taught all day, gone to some meetings, had to do some marking, and then has to put a PowerPoint together.
Yeah. It's so funny because we used to have this sort of running joke, really. And I'm not part of the product interviews anymore.
Yeah.
But we used to say, you think you know the curriculum now, but you don't really know the curriculum. And then you've been in the job for 6 months and, oh my word, do you know the curriculum? And it's kind of weird, isn't it? You don't know the curriculum that well as a teacher, even though you're teaching it, because you don't have time to know it well.
Yeah, you don't have time to sit
we
there.
know the curriculum so much better than somebody who's delivering it. And that's why, I suppose, businesses like Classroom Secrets exist.
Yeah. I think they're so important because it is taking that time off. I think it's just a shame that, like, I think it's a shame that the government aren't doing more in that sense. Not on saying, do you know what? We should back some of these and say, you go and make them.
Yeah.
It's always
they
the
kind
cheap.
of did in a way, didn't they? But
it wasn't a very good one. But I'm saying, but rather than like, we'll make this, going and going, do you know what? You're doing this really well. You do this and build on it, and we'll subsidize them for teachers, and we'll do this and we'll do that, because teachers are too burnt out. They're too burnt out to make a good resource without killing themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Or at least just give schools a funding so that they can spend the money where it's needed as well. Because I'm a great believer. It's difficult. I do have a subscription business at the end of the day, and there's lots of subscription businesses there. But even from the very beginning, I never had the mindset that a teacher should just sort of have access to one.
Yeah.
Because I used to go around on supply and I'd have different books in my bag, and I never just had like Target Your Maths. I'd have something else as well, because I needed to pull out what was appropriate for the moment.
Yeah.
Because generally for me, and I know not all teachers like this, I would see what the supply had left and I would make sure that I would match the topic, but I might do something slightly different, because I think if you can do it yourself, then you're going to do a much better job. And so I would take a range of books, because I couldn't use my own resources because I couldn't log in to the to the computer and print it out. So I had to take different books instead. But I think there's something in children being able to see different styles of what's being presented to them. I don't think teachers should have to cope with just one thing and that have to be everything to them. And I think, a lot of head teachers probably have the same mindset, which is why some of them have a war on a particular resource website, because it's everything to everyone. But I understand why.
Yeah.
Because I think I don't feel like I would have been a good teacher or a tutor if I'm always using from this specific website.
Yeah.
So I always have that in the back of my mind as well, that kind of thought process of, a teacher's job is to be able to select the right things at the right time and present them as an opportunity to the children.
I was just thinking then, though, I just realised then, when you first started Classroom Secrets, you still would have been like teaching, doing supply and that.
Oh, yeah.
So was there an overlap where you were going into schools and using Classroom, like, and being like, oh, we've got, if you go in and there's no planning, were you going in and logging in?
But that tended to not work because I couldn't log in, because at those times you didn't get a login, and then you couldn't, not on a day-to-day basis. So that was tricky. I think there was one school I went to and they'd left me a Classroom Secrets resource, and I was like, oh my word.
Did you tell them?
No, because
this is mine?
The teacher wasn't in the room. Well, I don't know. I always find that weird as well, because it's an odd feeling, isn't it? It's what we talked about at the beginning, where people have a view of Classroom Secrets, and I'm like, it's just this thing that we just do in our kitchen. And I know that it's not that now.
Yeah.
But it's so odd. Like, I'm proud and it's really nice, but it's also a bit embarrassing. And
could you imagine a social media was as big then. I know social media was around then, but now stuff goes viral all the time. Can you imagine if you would have started Classroom Secrets like it would have been then? It was like that, and you would have been able to like take a picture of your resource in a school that you were doing supply in.
And put it on. Well, I mean, social media was around.
Oh yeah, but it just wasn't that level now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have done that because I'd have been scared about like the school going, you taking a photo in our school. I was very frightened of everything at that time. I probably not evolved that much, but I just try to suppress it.
Schools have actually, I wouldn't say schools have relaxed around social media, but I remember going through uni and then the first couple of years of teaching, and there was a lot of scaremongering around social media.
Oh yeah.
I remember being a third year or fourth year student, because it's like a 4-year degree in primary school teaching, and we were in a school and they had a union in. The union were in and they were just talking to them, and they brought up social media and they said, don't want to scare any of you, but be careful what you put online, because in another school, a parent went onto a teacher's social media because it was open, took all photos of them on a night out off it, and sent them into the school and said, do you think this is appropriate? And I remember going home and I deleted my Facebook that night. I was like, not even worth it.
Yeah.
But now, if you think like, and as long as the kids aren't in it, I don't really have much problem with it. But now when you think like the amount of teachers that film in the classroom, do ideas, do all this, I couldn't have imagined that 10 years ago.
No.
I think it would have been like straight on a warning.
Exactly.
Like, how dare you?
Exactly. And I was afraid in that way, I think, especially because these were schools that I didn't really have a relationship with. And also, you know, I finished at the end of 2014. I only started it in 2013. So it was about 20 months to sort of go full time. It wasn't really enough time for it to be embedded. I can't remember when we got our first school, but I probably didn't have any school subscriptions at that point. The first time I got a school subscription, there's a school in Manchester, and the head teacher emailed like the customer service, or it might have even been Facebook, and said, you know, can you ring me? And I was like, is this a joke? I can't talk to you on the phone. On my mobile number, we had no like proper phone number or anything. And I was scared because I thought, this is a head teacher. I'm scared of head teachers. Not now, I'm not. But at the time, I was scared of head teachers, and well, they'll definitely find me out. What was if he finds out that I was a secondary teacher first?
Must have been terrifying pitching like how much you were going to offer it for.
But he didn't want me to. He wanted the product. It wasn't that I had to sell it.
Yeah.
But the fact that I had to phone him, and I didn't have any ideas what the school subscription would be.
Yeah.
I was like, Ed, what shall we do? And it took us about 2 weeks to get back to him. I made it so difficult to get the sale because I was so scared. I had no process in place, just because I was like, well, obviously a head teacher would be able to see right through me and know that I'm clueless and don't know anything. Now, obviously, that wasn't true. The resources were really helping people. But in my mind, I was like, listen, I'm just doing it for the teachers. Just forget the head teachers, forget the school. And you know, we still sort of live by that to really help the teacher. It's not that we don't want to help leaders, we do. And it's not that we don't want to help schools, but it starts with really helping the teacher who I was.
Yeah.
You know.
100%. And I think that's the big one, isn't it? It's building that. And I was think when you like grown, something I don't know about you, but I couldn't have envisioned where I am now, like 5 years ago. No. Could you have seen that? Like when you think now, like you've got an office, you've got staff, you've got your husband also employed by the business. Like at the start, like it is, and I think you've just got to take those risks with it, haven't you? You got to take those risks and just see where it goes.
Yeah. No, not at all. I didn't think that we'd be growing it. I mean, we've got some quite big growth plans as well. And we got to that point by having a stagnant point, really, and kind of going around in circles and having to, I suppose what had happened is we'd achieved what we set out to achieve, and we'd not really thought of like a new thing.
Yeah.
And when I think of the things that we're going after now and that we're doing, sometimes I'm like, is this, who am I? And all of it, you're just winging it. You have no idea. You're talking to as many advisors as you possibly can and trying to figure it out. I really did not think in my mind that we would have this team of people. And the leadership journey I've been on, the amount of lessons that you have to have publicly.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably not publicly as in like the whole of the teaching space, but publicly in front of a team is really hard, really hard. But we didn't have any idea of that. And in my mind, we were never going to have an office. And I'm glad we went through that journey, but we did that because other people wanted that. And then after COVID, I felt like I returned to myself. That period of time where we were in the office, I actually really struggled because I think that was 2018 to beginning of 2020.
Yeah.
I really struggled because I can't function if there's noise. Like I am ADHD, and I didn't know that at the time, but now it makes sense to me. If somebody's having a conversation, I can't not listen to that. I can't get dragged in. And, you know, people will sense that as well, and they'll be like, oh, well, I'll just sit next to Claire and then I'll find out what I need to know. And I was just like verbal diarrhea.
And you can't get in trouble for talking to the boss.
Exactly. That was totally the mindset. And it was unhelpful. And I'd get up really early to do the work that I should do in the office that I couldn't do because, and so when it came back to the point where we could go back into the office, I said, do you know what? I like this. This works for me to be able to work from home. And I think why don't we build a team who want to work from home? To be fair, most people did. There was only a few people who thought, you know what, this isn't for me. But how do we put our energy into making this the best possible experience from working from home, rather than going, oh, well, this company over there is saying, oh, people should be in the office. How do we go, well, how do we work from home anyway and make it even better? And so we have an office now, but nobody's there. I'm thinking at this point in time, you see, I'm even assessing, you know, what's the future of that? Yeah. Because we'd have board meetings there. Then my CFO moved to Portugal. I'm like, that's no problem. I prefer to do it online. It's him who'll like to come in. The product team get together, but actually now they're more spread out. They don't want to come to Halifax because actually that's hard to get to. They want to go to Leeds. And so sort of thinking about all of those things, is it the right thing? Is it not? So I think when you don't have that office space, that physical space, it allows you to sort of feel more safe in the fact that it's like you don't remember how big it really is. Yeah. Because you're just there on your own, which is nice. And they're all on teams, obviously. Yeah. But it feels smaller than it probably is. Yeah. From the outside, anyway.
Yeah, well, it's still going to be bigger. Like, I'm a one-man band, so it's still going to be bigger that way. But no, I think it's so fascinating, all of it. That idea of like teaching, seeing a problem in the schools, creating something and then growing. Like, when did you see the proper growth? As you say, you had one person sign up. Like, how long did you see it before you were like, oh, yeah, this has got legs? And what do you think actually did it?
So what it was a process. So I had in my mind that I would create resources that were quite practical, probably because I like, if I was teaching now. So when I think about the away day that I'm planning next week and I'll be doing a speech, I was thinking, oh, it's weird. I'm like returning to teaching. Yeah. And so I love to do like a Slido quiz, anything that kind of gets people involved. And so all the first resources were actually kind of games, like matching games and things like that. Turns out people didn't want them. And so what I thought would be what Classroom Secrets had as resources completely evolved. And all that was is a journey of going, well, not downloading this and then talking to them. And I'd written some books. So I started tutoring in 2012 at the same time as I'm building resources for Classroom Secrets, but before we launched it. And the whole idea of the carousel guided reading, I thought, you know what? Parents don't know what the different AFs are. You probably don't know what they are either. But in guided reading, we had like 7 AFs. I can't even remember what they were called, what AF stands for now. But like one was inference and another one was like relating it to the world or something like that. And what I found through my tutoring sessions, most parents wanted to stay. And at the time, I had this through dining room lounge, and I would be in the dining room at the table with the child, and the parent would sit on the sofa. The parents who stayed came on quicker because they learned a lot from listening to the lesson. And then, I didn't like to give homework, but they wanted me to give homework.
Yeah.
And they were doing better because the parents were learning things. And I thought, there's something in this. I'm going to write some stories and I'm going to tell them what AFs they're covering. Why I thought it was a good idea, I've got no idea. And I'd make sure that you had questions for all these different strands you were supposed to cover. And then, I did different activities to go with that story afterwards. And I made, you can still buy them on Amazon, don't, but you can. And they were called Riley's Writers. Anyway, so I did those. I don't know why I had the idea to sort of go off the whole piece of classroom secrets. I just did. But it was just part of the journey. And then I got to a point where I just thought, maybe this would be helpful for a teacher. Because when I thought of it as, this is good for a parent because I'm going right back to the beginning. That teacher who was me has been dropped into this classroom, knows how to teach, but knows nothing about subject knowledge. That's why I'm doing it for the parent. Well, what happens if I did it for a teacher?
Yeah.
They really liked it because I split it up for carousel guided reading, where you'd have your first session where you would read with the children. And then the second one would be the questions, which are all linked to these AFs. And then I'd put tricky vocabulary in and I'd highlight them and I'd make the next day about something on that. And I kind of had this system. And so they weren't differentiated, even though my thing was differentiated, but it was really helping. Yeah. That was the thing. And so they actually became quite popular. And that was the first resource I got freelancers for. I thought, well, these are going down well. I need to fuel this. Yeah. So in the beginning of 2014, it must have been, I put out on Facebook for freelancers. And I started getting them to help me with it. And so in 2015, that's where we saw our first sort of jump in the summer, in the end of August, beginning of September, for these guided reading packs. And then it was a case of just keeping listening. So then I started doing comprehensions, and it didn't have all the different activities after. And somebody said to me, this is good, but it'd be good if there were different reading levels in it. So then I ended up with 6 different levels. Basically, there'd be a Queen Victoria comprehension, but there'd be one for year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And it'd be similar in content. And so I kind of really learned how to make something easier and make something a lot more difficult in terms of the concepts, but also the vocabulary as well. And so then that was kind of like the next hero product. And I teach freelancers. I did a really bad job of that in the early days because I had no idea what I was doing. So that was the next thing. And then after that, we started sort of getting traction. It was making resources for maths because everyone had started following White Rose, but there were no resources. And they were asking, can you do something? Can you do something? And so we created some things that they would be able to use. So it's this journey of, you start a business and you think, I know what they need. But then you realise, no, they'll tell you. You have to listen and you have to keep changing and iterating and doing what they really need. Yeah. And then that's what will help it take off. And so that was, I suppose, the next hero product on our journey. And it's the products really, I think, that have driven the need for the subscription, or people's idea of the need for the subscription. And so you got to keep thinking, okay, so how do I really help now?
Oh, yeah. And I think schools are such a unique being with it, aren't they? In the sense of if you find one person in a school, if one person in a school discovers you and it's going well, then 7 more people have automatically just found you because they'll talk about it. Yeah. Then one of them will have a teacher friend who they might mention it to. All of a sudden, they haven't mentioned it to one person. They've mentioned it to another school.
Yes.
And it's grown that way, isn't it? And
And that can happen in the Facebook groups as well. It's like a big staff room now, but it is absolutely that. It's and that's really hard from a marketing perspective because you can't see that in your data.
Yeah.
You just see these sort of spikes. And when we got the office in 2018, and we got the office, and then a month later I was having a second baby, and then in the September we had to employ 7 customer service people like in a week because the amount of school subscriptions that were just coming in, and we were like, how has this happened? But I think it was teachers saying, hang on a minute,
this is really good.
This is really good. And then other teachers finding out, and then so many teachers in the school saying, right now, can the school pay now? And that's quite hard really to quantify because you think you're doing the right things. You can't necessarily prove it because you can't see that in the data because teachers are brilliant at saying, do you know what? This was really good. And that all happens offline.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I think it's really good. I think it's probably a really good place for us to wrap up the episode and stuff like that. But it's mad just that idea of like starting in a bedroom, ending up where it's like in near enough like what, near enough every school in the country.
Thousands of schools.
Like,
Thousands of schools.
Like every school will know about it. It's a wild journey, that, isn't it? To think, to go from just starting in a bedroom, thinking, oh, maybe this will take off, to being like every school in the country knows.
I don't think every school in the country does know.
I would say.
I think some people do know us, but not everybody.
I would say there's at least one teacher in every school who's heard the classroom secrets.
Do you think? I don't think that at all. This is what I mean. Like your perception is different to my perception. It'd be nice if they did. Yeah. This is going to help. Thank you. Thank you, Martin.
But no, it's a good place to wrap up. Definitely check out Classroom Secrets. And we'll be back next week for another episode. We'll record it now, but we'll be back next week.
Thank you.
Bye now.